This government will tackle antisocial behaviour by rebuilding visible neighbourhood policing with 13,000 additional neighbourhood officers and PCSOs, and will bring in new respect orders to enable police to ban persistent antisocial offenders from our town centres. We will also introduce a new offence of assaulting a retail worker and end the effective immunity for shop theft of goods under £200.
My Lords, I thank my noble friend the Minister for his answer, and I was pleased to see that safer streets are a priority for this government. But I would like to ask the Minister if he will agree with me that antisocial behaviour and crime like shoplifting, aggressive begging and phone theft is anything but low level and can blight the lives of local residents and businesses. Many people who work in shops right now feel like they're living in a war zone. And will he agree with me that antisocial behaviour can so often be the canary down the coal mine and tell a wider story about what kind of society we are living in? And finally, can he tell us if there will be a focus on targeting often a small number of hardened criminals who are responsible for terrorising local residents and local shops in the area? Will the police and the courts take this more seriously, and will they consider the use of technology like facial recognition?
I'm pleased to say to my noble friend that it's a yes to every point that she has raised in her question. Antisocial behaviour, shop theft are not minor crimes. They cause disruption in our communities, and shop theft particularly costs retailers across the nation millions of pounds, passed on to us as customers. It is not acceptable, and that's why, particularly on shop theft, we are going to end the £200 effective immunity, and for shop workers we will protect shop workers by introducing a new offence, because they are very often upholding the law in those shops on alcohol, tobacco and other sales for us in this House.
Whilst agreeing with everything the noble Baroness has just said, does he agree with me to hope that the sentencing review will result in less women being sent to prison unnecessarily?
I don't wish to preempt the sentencing review undertaken by David Gork, a former Conservative Justice Secretary, commissioned by the Lord Chancellor, but self-evidently it is in the interests of society to have fewer women go to prison and to have an increase in community-based sentences, and David Gork and the Lord Chancellor will look at both of those matters as part of this review.
My Lords, what assessment has the government made that increased shoplifting is a result of increasing poverty in our society?
There is an element, as always, of a range of reasons why shoplifting takes place, but I'm not going to excuse shoplifting and shop theft under any circumstances, because it still is a crime. I grew up on a very poor estate in Liverpool and in Cheshire. It wasn't acceptable to shoplift then, it's not acceptable now. And what we need to do is to ensure that we tackle that by having neighbourhood policing, greater emphasis on the focus for police on shop theft, greater support to retailers, and we look at, certainly, I appreciate the Noble Earl's view on poverty. We look at poverty in the round, and we put measures in through a range of reasons to lift people out of poverty, to ensure that they can live reasonable, productive and effective lives.
The Minister has said that before introducing respect orders, the government are going to run a number of pilots, which is a very good idea. But current laws on antisocial behaviour have never been thoroughly reviewed, and the Home Office don't even keep records on how they're being used at the moment. So before the government introduce these new respect orders, could I ask the Minister if the government will agree to have a review of the current laws and how they're working out, so that lessons learned could be used in order to inform the pilots?
I'm grateful to the noble Baroness for that comment. We will keep all legislation under review. And again, 14 years out of office, some of the measures we want to review how they've been utilised and what they can be done to improve community resilience. The most important thing we can do is certainly pilot the respect orders, But again, I think a really important issue will be the 13,000 neighbourhood police, because the 13,000 neighbourhood police and community support officers can embed themselves more in the community, can look at what the responses are required, can work with people like shopkeepers in relation to the shop theft that my noble friend Baroness Hazarika has mentioned, and can work with the community to look at what is best utilised to gain the support of the community in reducing crime.
My lords, increasing theft of child baby milk formula would suggest that criminal justice measures alone will not deal with this problem. So what proposals does the government intend to bring forward to have a discussion with those who produce and sell child baby formula milk in order to address this issue and the increasing impact on the poorest of families of the rising cost of that formula?
I hope I can reassure my noble friend, and indeed, reassure the Earl of Clancarty also, that poverty is an important issue for this government. If there are trends in the type of theft that's occurring, such as in baby milk, that will indicate some element of poverty-related theft. But actually, what we have to look at doing, I think, is tackle poverty holistically, look at a whole range of measures on social welfare, on housing, on support for issues that we're doing through minimum wage increases and others to ensure that we can help raise people out of poverty. And there is a target from the government to lift that poverty level and to make it higher. But it still doesn't excuse, in my view, the issue of theft. And theft has to be something at the heart of this government's approach. And for my responsibilities in the Home Office, shop theft is a key issue, and one where we'll be bringing forward legislation to take measures, if supported by both houses, to tackle this issue.
My Lords, having spent most of my working life working in a shop, I would welcome the protections for shop workers and for the noble Lord Minister's comments about the seriousness of shoplifting and crime. What encouragement can he give to the law enforcement officers to also take this seriously?
Well, I think if I can say to the noble Lord that the 2014 Act that changed the threshold and put a £200 threshold on shop theft didn't change the law, but it changed the approach that law enforcement officers would take, in that thefts from under £200 were seen to be thefts that we didn't need to respond to, didn't need to go out to. I regard that as being unacceptable, which is why we are changing the law to abolish that £200 threshold, to allow police to focus on that issue. Neighbourhood policing will help that, and the effect of the shop workers' defence and an aggravated offence on attacks on a shop worker are there to protect shop workers who are upholding the law in the shop as the first form of defence. I've been a member of the Shop Workers Union for 44 years. It's an important issue to them. They've campaigned on it for 20 years, and I think it's an important issue for both houses to recognise, and I look forward to taking you through this house in due course.
My Lords, my Lords, isn't the original question, I think, was entirely right, that repeat victim offender location theory applies to both these types of offences. A small percentage of all of them account for a very high majority of the offences involved. Would the Minister agree with me that there are probably three things the police can do to bear down on this? Number one is already indicated: attend the scenes of an event. Actually go and look and see what's happened. If it's shoplifting or it's antisocial behaviour, and not make a phone call. Number two is that a linking offence or a linking event is the supply of alcohol to underage people through pubs and through off-licences. And third, uncontrolled street-level dealing of drugs. These are susceptible to some simple tactics. It's not an issue of resources. It's about uniformity of application and method. And perhaps the government's got an opportunity to make sure that the police do apply all three of those. I'm very grateful to the noble Lord. He makes three extremely valuable points, which we will certainly take on board. The key thing that we're trying to do as well is my friend, my right honourable friend Diana Johnson, the policing minister in the House of Commons, has recently chaired a round table, which I attended, also with the Chief Constable of North Wales, who's the lead on shop theft, to look at how we can coordinate police forces better across lines of counties, how we can follow up on the very points the noble Lord has mentioned in terms of onward use of criminal activity such as alcohol and or into drugs, and how we can, through Operation Pegasus,
resource and examine those really serious shop thefts that are involving not just shoplifters on an individual basis, as has been mentioned by the Noble Lord Boateng and others, but also those criminal gangs that are organising very strong shoplifting hits. And Operation Pegasus has just received additional resources from this government to support its work.
My Lords. My Lord, I'm sure across this House we'd agree that no shop worker should go to work afraid for their safety. But is the Minister aware of Home Office research showing that the majority of shoplifting offences are carried out by hard drug users? And can the Minister tell us what steps government can take to reduce the stigma and shame around addiction so that more users seek help?
I'm grateful to my noble friend. One of the really key issues that the last government did, as in the last Labour government did in 2005 to 2010, was to ensure that we had a number of community-based sentences and community orders to support people who had drug or alcohol addictions, to overcome those addictions and to stop, therefore, their shoplifting because of those addictions. And I would certainly hope that the sentencing review considers that in the round, and when the measures that we've brought forward come to this House and to the House of Commons in due course, I hope that issue of how we tackle persistent offenders and intervene on their behaviour is really central to our purpose in passing legislation downstream.